Good evening, Hyperspinners. Today I'm going to show you Hypermarquee and the launching system behind it. Let's get started. All right, guys, like always, step number one, you guessed it, go into hyperspins.fe.com and we're going to go to the link in the description below, and it's going to give you a lot of instructions for Hypermarquee. And you will notice that the download section, the exe is missing. So this is no longer supported, but I will be placing the exe in my Mega, so you have it available and you can play with it. You can also find the exe floating around on the forums, but you know the authors here, they do support it if you PM them, private message them. But you know, there's no promises here. Seven Seal really knows his stuff. He can help set you up. He can team view you, from what I've read at least on the forums. He seems to be the front man, and Antos is the author of the application, I think. But anyway, so let's take a look at this. This was a little confusing for me, at least, and it took a little while to get it set up, but I will include my settings so you can just change some paths around and you know, be done with this. So you can you know, add it to your system here. It will be a little funky when I'm demonstrating this because I am using one monitor here, but it'll give you a good idea of at least the work that I've put into it. Also want to put a special plug in here. Retro Humanoid, he's done great work when it comes to these marquees. But you know, when it comes to the folder structure and such, that is something that I had created to support in Hypermarquee. So if you want to do the legwork and do it yourself, you can certainly do so. But I will be using this as a sort of rewards tier. I will release this media so it looks great on your system. So the file structure is here. So maybe I've got a backup here. So sorry guys, once you've downloaded the Hypermarquee file from my Mega, what you're going to want to do is drop this into a tools or utility folder, and what you're going to do is drop all the settings within a folder called Hyperspace Marquee. And what you're going to want to do is create a marquees folder, and this is going to be where you store all of your marquees. And those marquees are divided by system. You're going to see I've even got playlists in here, but yeah, basically it's just what you guys are used to. You can open up a system and then you see the marquee. You'll want to label it as default because what you'll find is when you go to Mame, you're going to have a lot more marquees available to you. And on the web, there's a number of, I guess, brands of marquee, if you will. There's good, bad, and like high def. I feel like the packs on the Hyperspin forum, but even then, there is some really bad marquees out there. Things that are out of resolution, things that are shiny, you know, things just that have not been really edited all that much. So you can see there's 963 that I've personally weeded through on my own, and that allows us to get a very clean marquee setup for the main wheel, or the main wheel in general. And yeah, I'll kind of show things off on how that works. And so I'm going to go ahead and back up. This is the Marquees folder. There's all the systems and the playlists. And the one thing that you're going to want to do is, ultimately, if you guys want this to look really well, you're going to want to make sure that you always have a default marquee for each system, because the setup that I'm going to show you is, if there isn't a marquee for a specific game, then what it's going to do is it's going to take the wheel art and it's going to lay on top of that default marquee. If there is not a default marquee, then the wheel art basically stretches across the entire monitor, and that looks really fungly. Yeah, I said it, fungly. It's not good. So just get the default marquees on all your systems, and the wheel art will be front and center, and it'll look very nice. So I'll kind of show that off as well. So I'm going to go ahead and back out of the marquee folder, and everything that you guys are going to be saving when you open up Hypermarquee, it's going to ask you for a slew of selections, and those selections are going to be saved into a file, and you'll find those in the settings folder. Here's all my files that I've created. The ones that we really care about, or the ones I care about at least, is the marquee image 2. This is going to be where the default marquees are going to be laying on, and the wheels are going to be laying on top of that. And then the HiToText. So I want to see the high score for Mame always displayed on my second screen while I'm playing. So these other ones were test subjects. I wanted to see what the artwork would look like. I didn't really find it too fond of adding it to my system, so I basically did not use it. It also has a hyper speech element to this, but the hyper speech video that I've already posted is much better than this built-in one. Just trust me on that, guys. You can play with it if you'd like, but it's just not good. It doesn't follow all the call actions that Hyperspin has behind the scenes. So I'm going to go and back out of that, and we're going to start playing with the GUI here. You're going to notice the high score folder as well. Basically, this is where it's going to point for the high score text to show up. This will be included in the download there. The marquees, I might hoard that for a little bit more until these subscribers come in, which is great, to be honest, guys. I'm getting at least 10 a day, so keep up the good work, and I hope these are helping you guys out. So yeah, let's get started. There's a slew of different instructions. I still found it really hard to figure out. I mean, this took days for me to get this thing working the way that I was trying to set it up. So I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek and a jump start on this. So go ahead and open up Hypermarquee. You're going to see that this shows up here. If you were to click the new marquee, it's basically just going to ask you for settings, marquee artwork, which is what we care about, the digital text. So it's sort of, this fancy font, and you can type whatever you want on it. Hyperspin theme, I'm not sure what that was, but I'm not using it, of course. Time lapse, if you wanted to have a counter of how long you guys had that game opened, I tried to add this to the system. I was successful, but I just ultimately did not like it. So from the time that you opened up Rocket Launcher for the game, it would start counting, and that counter would continue to count until you close that game. So, it would show that you played for 20 minutes. I had that in the, bottom right corner of the marquee itself, and it took away from the experience, in my opinion. Then we've got HiToText. Since there is a limited amount of real estate on your second monitor, that's why I kind of chose just the HiToText and the marquee itself. So that looked clean to me. So when you select one of these, remember, I'm going to give you a shortcut here so you guys don't have to do all this. But you go marquee artwork, or whichever one you want to choose, and then you select the system. You can select any of them, if you will. because really we're just trying to set up one, and then we're going to call that on the calling system, which I'll show after we finish this part. So I'm going to hit enter to select this system. I'm going to name it to whatever I like. I'm just going to hit enter because it's an example. Here, let's we'll say test here. And I hit enter here. So this is a Hypermarquee, and basically if you click, if you click anywhere in this blackish area, this tinted area, click and hold, you can drag this to wherever you want. And if you have a second monitor, you can just slide it right over the top of it, and you can grab the bottom corner and move it however you want, the correct size that you're after. It's very easy to plug and play there. But for what we're going to do, you could use these options here for the window. I didn't do that. I just I might have hit snap to grid. I'll pull up my configuration, but you're going to go to edit, application preference and settings, and now this is where you get lost in the woods really quick, because at least for me, it was a lot of trial and error until I got this thing looking good. But I feel like if I share what I have, you'll be able to quickly plug and play what you want, or the paths to make this work for you. So I'm going to go ahead and close this because I want to provide a clean example. I'm going to go File, I'm going to hit Exit, I'm going to reopen, and I'm going to hit Load Marquee. And remember the Marquee image 2, that's the one that we care about. This is the one that I just kept going to town on. And then you can see a lovely Mame default Marquee. So I'm going to click anywhere in this, and that's going to allow the options to show up. Again, credits go to Retro Humanoid. He does great work. Check out his channel and or his website. I'm going to go Edit. I'm going to go to Application Preferences and Settings. And here you go, guys. So in the global settings, the system image folder, this is going to be your root Hyperspin path. So your media, main menu, images, wheel, and then you see in brackets file name. That's a wildcard search essentially. So if you have a wheel, it's going to display your wheel art on top of this marquee front and center. You can click on this dot 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 button. I forget what it's called, but you'll basically just select the file, any file in this main menu, image, wheel, and then select Mame, for example. Once you've done that, then you're going to just click in here and you're going to delete Mame.png, and you're going to type in bracket file name bracket PNG. Same thing goes with your foreground. You're going to go to your Hypermarquee folder, and then you're going to go to the Marquee folder, or the Marquees folder. Remember, that's the file or the folder that had all the marquees on each system. And you're going to select a system, let's say Mame, and then you're going to select 1941. You'll do that by clicking this button here. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to delete 1941, and you're going to type in file name, put that in brackets. You're going to delete Mame, and you're going to put system in brackets. So it wildcards the path. And then you're going to do the same thing for background. So background, you're going to go to Marquees, you're going to go System, Default. So really, guys, you can click these buttons here, or you can just go in here and edit and just change the front part of my path, and that should get the job done. And then we got VLC. Again, in your Hypermarquee folder, there's a VLC folder as well, and you're just going to point that to that VLC exe. So what else do we have? I believe if you click on the border brush, now this is what was hanging me up for a long time, guys. So basically when you overlap your your artwork. So I've got a marquee, and then I'm going to have a HiPerhq that lays on top of it. There's sort of this, black tint, kind of like what you guys were seeing when I was moving this thing around. Um, you would have a black tint that would surround the HiPerhq, and it just looked really bad. So the only way to get around that was to basically update the shaders back here. So again, this is all set up, in my files that I'll be provided. You won't have to do this. So I took all the legwork out of there, but I used DMD effect, and I used the border brush. We want to make sure that this is invisible, so you can see the background is, well, that's good. So we take out the color. We want it invisible so it looks seamless. So again, I've already done this for us. You can see the settings here, and yeah, that is it on this tab here. Text appearance, this was all by default. I might have changed the font brush a little bit. Oh yeah, see there's the black color. So that's all by default. And text behavior, this is all by default. HS theme, this is where you will have to change the paths again. You can see there's your media folder, system, themes, file name. So same sort of story, just select any theme. You could go Mame themes and 1941. You could delete that bit and type in file name and system name. And then same thing goes with your video and your theme transition. So again, you can just change the front part of the path, and that will get you started. And so then we're going to go to high score. So again, just changing the front part of the path, and then your high folder and your NVRAM folder, wherever you place that in your main folder, you're going to go straight there. And something, in case you haven't already set up Mame, don't name your Mame a version, like your folder, Mame0149, especially since they release that like every month now. So it's something crazy like 9 or something like that right now. I might be on like 164. But yeah, you don't want your folders to have the version in there. You don't want to tinker with all that with updates. Anyway, next we've got artwork. Again, you'll just change the front path of, the first part of the paths. You can see all the wildcards here. Again, I've done all the work for you guys. It was frustrating, but it's worth it. So then we've also got this FLV path unknown. So this allows you to, when you start up your Hyperspin setup, along with your random intro video, you can have a basically an FLV video it's really a GIF file essentially, but it allows you to play a video at startup, and it looks pretty sweet. So next we've got databases. I just went up to the top and clicked databases. Again, you're just going to change the front part of the path. Just trust me on this, guys. You'll want to use my example. It's going to be a lot easier. It'll save you a lot of frustration. And the event. So this is what the event caller is going to call, which I'll show you how to do that. That's the guts behind it, how things get triggered. And that is it, guys. So once you've done all your edits to the paths, you're just going to push the X, and you're going to hit File, Save As, and I'm going to hit Exit. I believe it also saves as soon as you hit Exit, so just a heads up there. And we'll give this a shot here. So I'm going to go out of this, and we are going to call EDS. EDS is the calling system to all of this. And what I'll do is I'll pull the link in the description below, and you'll have this. You'll basically just launch it as is. You'll download the file, you'll unzip everything in here, and then you'll open up Hyperspin Event Integrator. It's going to give you this error message saying, or attention, saying that, we're dealing with command lines. If you don't know what you're doing, you could basically make something call like a billion times, and it might screw up your system because it, cannot compute. It's trying to compute what you told it to do, and it, brain's fried. So, again, you can just use the files that I've used as an example. You're going to see a whole bunch of attempts here, or tests, if you will, of things. And, you might like some of this stuff. So, you might activate it. But all you got to do is uncheck the disable checkbox. And what you'll want to do is also click on the buttons off to the left. And you're going to want to make sure that you point to that file. So the event speech, I would go to my Hypermarquee folder, and I would go to Hyperspeech essentially. But anyway, so the things that we care about, I've made a note on turn me on. So this is what you're going to use to activate Hypermarquee and do the setup that I've been trying to talk you through. So this Hypermarquee, once you click on that button, you're going to go to your Hypermarquee folder. You're going to select the Hypermarquee.xml file. And once you've done that, you're going to be back here, and you're going to click, CLI will already be checked. And what you're going to want is this to be displayed here. Since you're going to be using my file, it's already going to be there, but if you type this, that's what you're after. And these open filters and close filters, this is just how it works. So if you click on this event filter ID list, it's going to tell you what all these mean. And this is what worked best for me. When these marquees will display and change on you. So again, I'm using the default backgrounds, and if there's any marquees per game, that's what's going to be showing up there. So I'm going to enable that. And then if I'm using HiToText, then what I'm going to do is down here, I'm going to click the button that says Hypermarquee again. I'm going to click that. I'm going to find the exe for Hypermarquee and select it. And once I've done that, then I'm going to just make sure everything looks good where it says false Mame-HiToText gaming system. And you're going to turn me on there. I'm going to uncheck that. And you're going to leave everything the same, and the HiToText only happens with Mame. So that is all you've got to do. And to kind of test this, what I can do is show you this. I'm going to hit try here, and you see up here the event. So that's testing this event here, the open filter 8. I'm testing 1942, the ROM name, and main menu. So when I push this, it's, I think I've got to open. Here, let me try a different one. Let's try 3. Oh, yeah, what am I doing? Guys, always keeping me on my toes. So, main menu doesn't exist here. 1942 is a game in Maine. Duh. So, here we go. I'm going to test it. So, there you go. There's my HiToText. You can see there. That's not exactly what it looks like, but yeah, it kind of gives you the idea here. Once you're done with that, that's it. And I'm going to close by pushing the X. And if I wanted to test the other app that I turned on, I'm going to hit try. It's going to pop up the marquee. This is one of those middle ground marquees. And I'm going to X out. And I'm going to close this. And once that closes, the thing that I was trying to find was how do we call the EDS system for Hyperspin. And I was looking for the LED blinky path, and you know, I even forget, guys. So it's in hyperhq, and under the Tools tab, you're going to find the path to LED blink XE. You're going to point that to the EDS folder that you create for that EDS application, and you're going to have all the settings here. So yeah, that's all there is to it. Once you've done that, then we have essentially completed Hypermarquee, and we'll go and show this off. You know, we'll see. This is all going to be on one screen, so it might look a little funky, but you'll get the idea, and it does look pretty sweet. So there's that startup video that I created. Did see that it just lost focus, and that's because I'm only using one monitor. If I had a second monitor, that would not have gone away. So I'm gonna go ahead and go through here. And
good to have you back, Retro Gamer.
There's a
up,
custom,
up, down, left, right, BAE start.
There's a
congratulations,
custom,
nostalgic unlocked. All. Choose from a list of all systems supported regardless of category. Game on.
Okay, so there's a custom marquee that you see there. I've set that up for each
classic arcade
wheel in the
arcade.
main menu, so it looks seamless.
Consoles.
It's a static marquee essentially.
Hell, Mame.
All right, so here is Mame, the default marquee, and when we go ahead and open that,
good. Switching to Mame wheel.
You're gonna see there's a marquee that shows up.
Argus.
Let's try to find one that
Area
doesn't have
51.
One.
Maximum. Area 51. Arch rivals.
That's good, right? I think
Arcadia.
There's 1,000 marquees, or very close to 1,000, that show up. Oh, but listen to that sound. That's awful. That
no bio available.
Clip needs to be updated, guys.
Arcade classics.
But what you're gonna find is the games that don't have a marquee.
Arabian Magic
will show up front and center. You can see that the resolution doesn't look awful, so this is why you need
Arabian Magic. Copyright 1992 Taito Court.
It fits in there.
Arabian
in the
Magic
center.
is a scrolling beat 'em up for 1 to 4 players, set in the mythical world of the Arabian Nights.
That I've got.
A long time ago, an evil wizard. Arabian fight.
That should get the job done. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out.
Mame.
Oh, actually, I'm going to show you the Mame-HiToText.
Introducing. Get ready. Starting.
Start one of these. Oh, that's good.
So many games to choose from. Mame. Okay, loading Mame wheel. Arabian
so
fight.
We're gonna launch one of these
Applejack. Angler Dangler. Games. 1940, 1942.
I'm gonna go ahead and launch this for high score.
Here we go.
Loading game. Loading complete.
So you can see the bezel here, and you know, for my take here, since I don't have a secondary monitor, I still have the high score showing up. So you can see that's why I chose those colors, because they show up. You know, you can change the colors however you'd like in Hypermarquee using that B button that I was showing you before. I'll pull that up here in a second to show you the location of that. Okay, go ahead and close that.
That looks so much fun.
There's
1943 cut. 1943. The battle.
We're gonna back up.
Mame.
We're
All.
gonna back out of this here. So that's Hypermarquee. It's setting up very nicely for us, and I'm going to go back to Hypermarquee, and I'm going to show you the edits to the font of the HiToText, if you so choose to. So I'm going to go to Hypermarquee, and I'm going to go Load Marquee, and the HiToText, I'm going to click Mame-HiToText. Before, we were in the Marquee image 2. That is for the actual marquees themselves. Now the HiToText, I'm going to open that up, and you're going to see that you see what I was talking about before. You're going to say, oh, there's nothing here, Justin. You see down here in the bottom right corner here, this is where the invisibility comes in here. So whenever you're stacking artwork, you'll get like a dark tint that lays on top of it, and it just looks absolutely awful. So what you've got to do whenever you're stacking artwork, you need to change the background to invisible. So to do that, I'm just going to click in this box. I knew it was there because I saw the little indicator here where I can drag and move stuff around. Once I click in there, it's going to show me settings. I'm going to hit Edit, Application, and this is where you're going to be able to edit the text. So global settings, you've changed the path for the HiToText. Here's the text appearance. You just click Font Brush D, and you select the font that you're after, and the size and the outline. You can play to your heart's content here. And text behavior, I just left that as is, but you could do like a scrolling text. When I was doing that, I could only scroll through the high scores once for whatever reason. So that's why I stuck with fixed text. HS themes, again, you're just changing, well, it doesn't even look like I changed anything here. This is defaulted in there, so you can skip that, guys. High score, whenever you see E arcade PC, that's my path. You would change those. And that is it, guys. So you've seen a lot of stuff. Hypermarquee is pretty confusing. Even explaining it is confusing because it's not very user-friendly, but it does do some really awesome things. And I think is at a high level, if you open up Hypermarquee and you just go through each one of these tabs, when you open up my example, so if you were to launch, or sorry, if you were to download what is in Mega, and so then just launch Hypermarquee, and you press Load Marquee, when you click Edit Application Preference, and you just go through each one of these tabs, change the E Arcade PC to your path, and you make all those edits. Then you'll also want to edit the HiToText settings as well. So if you're closing this out, exit here. It goes all the way through the process, even if you don't select anything. It's super annoying. So if you open up Hypermarquee, Load Marquee, and you select HiToText, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to change all the tabs and the paths. And once you've done that, then you're going to open up sorry, I got to close out all this stuff. And once you do that, you're going to go to EDS. And if you keep all my settings as well, you're going to open up Hyperspin Event Integrator, and you're just going to edit these paths, specifically the one that says Turn Me On. You're going to click this button, change the path to Hypermarquee, your Hypermarquee, and you're going to uncheck the Disable to Available. You scroll down, you're going to click Hypermarquee, this button again. You're going to find Hypermarquee XE, you're going to select it, and you're going to check this disabled to enabled for turn me on. And then outside of that, you're just going to go to hyperhq, and you're going to go to the LED blinky path, and you're going to select the path for EDS for that selection here. Sorry guys, this is becoming a little embarrassing here. It looks like we might have multiple. Yeah, since the update to Hyperspin 151, the hyperhq app seems to hang for me sometimes. I don't know if it has you. Definitely leave a comment in the description or the comment section below, because that is something that I have noticed with that 1.51 update. It's just weird. But again, I don't really use hyperhq anymore because I've got everything set up. You guys probably run into it a lot more if you are trying to set all this up. So best of luck. So in the Tools tab, you're just going to change that to EDS, that EDS path, and that is essentially the setup. I know it's a lot of back and forth here, but it is pretty technical, and it does work great after you get it set up. The last thing that I will say is when you are in Hypermarquee and you're in the Marquees folder, I don't have a complete setup of every system. I do have 165, which covers most of the systems that I've got. When I say it doesn't cover most of the system, or sorry, when I say I don't have all the systems, it's primarily the extra playlists. Retro Humanoid is still on his way to complete the playlist Marquees, and he's just distributing them, you know, as he makes them. But this is a great base, and just remember what I said. If you don't have a default marquee in your systems, the wheel art will look terrible. So just a heads up there. But it is on its way, and it's like I'm 95% happy with it. If I get a second monitor, I'm definitely going to be using it. And there you go. So that's Hypermarquee. It's probably the most advanced thing that you could add to your Hyperspin setup, but it does pay off. So I hope that helps you guys, and please like, subscribe, and comment in below. All right, thanks guys.